what I've been reading. I've been reading Ta-Nehisi Coates' Between the World and Me, which was a beautiful love letter of sorts to his son. It was essentially him telling him about life, his life growing up as a black man in America, and giving his son life advice, while also recognizing that his son's version of growing up black in America is going to be very different from what his version was, as well as reflecting on how different Ta-Nehisi Coates' version was from his father's version of growing up black in America, and how things change and how certain things stay the same. And reading this reinforced an idea in myself that I had with writing certain things down as a father of two boys, writing certain things down for them for the future of, aside from just like thoughts and what my take was on something or how I felt about something at a certain specific point in time, which I think my podcast in general and maybe my writing would inform those answers, but just like general life advice for things that I went through, that they may go through, thoughts that I've had or wrestled with, things that I foresee that might be challenging for them or that they may want to lean into, like strengths that I think they have, for for what it's worth, just being my opinion, and not necessarily to publish, but just like as a thing for them. Like reading this book kind of like reinforced that thought, and it's a powerful read, but definitely one that I know I will revisit in the future, and that you folks should definitely check out, and I will link to it in the episode notes for you guys to do just that. And Ta-Nehisi Coates, I've over the years very much enjoyed his perspective, his take, usually political ones, on many different podcasts or interview shows that I've seen him on, and always wanted to read this book. It's always spoken highly of, but never have until recently, and I'm definitely glad I did. So I just wanted to share a few takeaways that I took away from the book, just parts of it that resonated with me that I wanted to share for different reasons, whether it's the actual prose on the page and how he put a concept or idea together, or just like the lesson or takeaway. I have about 6 or 7 different ones, and starting off with this first one, which was a story that he told that just like brought me to that point in time. Like I felt I was there, and it's just the way that he wrote it was just dope, and also somewhat reminiscent of of my childhood, but a less extreme version. But let me just jump right into it. It's a story about him getting robbed when he was younger and having to process it alone, and then sharing it with his friends in a way that he like laughed it off, or like they laughed it off, but he really like internalized like that pain and that fear from the experience. And that's the piece that definitely resonated with me. But he just breaks it down like so eloquently, and I wrote it almost verbatim, wrote it down rather verbatim, and wanted to share with you guys. And he says, quote, "In 6th grade, just before 3 p.m., I recall it in the slowest motion, as though in a dream. There the boy stood, with the gun brandished, which he slowly tucked, untucked, and tucked once more. And in his small eyes, I saw a surging rage that could in an instant erase my body." That was 1986. That year I felt myself to be drowning in the news reports of murder. I was aware that these murders very often did not land on the intended targets, but fell up on great aunts, PTA mothers, overtime uncles, and joyful children. Fell upon them random and relentless, like gray sheets of rain. I knew this in theory, but could not understand it as fact until the boy with the small eyes stood across from me, holding my entire body in his small hands. The boy did not shoot. His friends pulled him back. He did not need to shoot. He had affirmed my place in the order of things. He had let it be known how easily I could be selected. I took the subway home that day, processing the episode all alone. I did not tell my parents. I did not tell my teachers. And if I told my friends, I would have done so with all the excitement needed to obscure the fear that came over me in that moment. I remember being amazed that death could so easily rise up from the nothing of a boyish afternoon, billow up like fog. End quote. That piece was intense, and I just love the way he worded it. Especially this line, fell upon them random and relentless, like gray sheets of rain, and so many more in there. This was definitely a good takeaway, and again, definitely rang true. He says, growing up, he learned a different language, a language of the streets, and described it as knowing/learning the names and which crew ran which hood in which city. And they can tell you the name of all the captains and all their cousins and offer an anthology of all their exploits. This was necessary to survive in certain neighborhoods and to protect their bodies. And he says, I learned that, yo, shorty, can I see your bike? Was never a sincere question, which is so fucking true. I remember I was like telling my son a story the other day that I remember from when I was a kid. I had this like banana seat bike, and it was in the yard. I was like riding it around inside the yard, and I left it in the yard, and I saw at the window that somebody came into the yard and was like by the bike. Another kid, like around my age, maybe a couple years older. From memory, I was like 7, 8, or 9. I could be off on the age, but around that age bracket. And I ran out to the yard, and the kid sees me, gets like startled, and I was like, that's my bike. Like, I don't know like what to say. I said something to that effect. And he was like, oh, I didn't know. And he just like left the yard. And I was like, what the hell? I remember thinking like, this dude was trying to take my bike. And then I don't remember if it was a few days later or a few weeks later, somebody did steal that bike. So probably that same kid. But yeah, it's like little nuances of like he's speaking to you folks that literally grew up on the street, you know, like about that life, which I was definitely not. But you're close to it enough to understand that takeaway of, I learned that, yo, shorty, can I see your bike? Was never a sincere question. And that's so true. And then this next one was, he says, and yo, you was messing with my cousin? Was neither an earnest accusation nor a misunderstanding of the facts. That was just a way for somebody to start fucking with you, basically. And the next one I wrote down was, algebra, biology, and English were not subjects so much as opportunities to better discipline the body, to practice writing between the lines, copying the directions legible, memorizing theorems extracted from the world they were created to represent. I thought that was an interesting take. Then he wrote, to my son, quote, my work is to give you what I know of my own particular path, while allowing you to walk your own. You can no more be black like I am black, like I can be black like your grandfather was. And that's such an important takeaway right there. I want to give you what I know of my own particular path while allowing you to walk your own. And that's something I definitely want to emulate for my own kids. And I thought that this was just an interesting part of his life story, where he's telling his son about his wife and them meeting, and just about the early parts of their relationship. He says that his wife secured a job in New York after college, and he followed her to New York, even though he wasn't financially necessarily able to. Like, she was the main breadwinner. He said that what little he did make from his writing, which was from like reviewing an album or a book, it was enough to cover approximately 2 electric bills the entire year. And to boot, they arrived to New York 2 months before 9/11. And then 2 more that I want to share with you folks. From, again, Ta-Nehisi Coates' Between the World and Me. He says, here's how I take measure of my progress in life. I imagine myself as I was, back there in West Baltimore, fearful of the schools and the streets. And I imagine showing that lost boy a portrait of my current life and asking him what he makes of it. That definitely resonated with me, and in a couple ways. In a way that it's definitely a great touch point for yourself to reflect on. Think about yourself as a kid, the hopes and dreams and desires that you had at some point in your life, and what you think your childhood self would think of where you are now. And it's a good way to recalibrate. And I know I often wonder if I've done enough, if I strive enough, if I try enough, if I am enough. You know, like a lot of us, I'm sure, do. And in retrospect, I've definitely achieved a lot of goals that I know would have made my childhood self happy. The childhood version of myself, if I asked, would be happy that I'm married, I have children, we have our own place, finished college, I have a good career, I work hard at emulating my parents' practices of putting family first and raising a good family. I have passions that I work towards, like writing, podcasting, so on and so forth. Like things like that, I know the childhood version of myself would be happy with and look forward to. But it also helps to look at things from that vantage point and how that child would tell me now, hey, what's taking so long to write that second book or third book? And then allow to reprioritize things accordingly. So that was definitely a dope takeaway. And last but not least, what I jotted down, which definitely rings true when I'm rereading it now, although I don't recall why exactly it resonated, but it was that, quote, the things that get you are so small. The things that keep you up at night are so particular to you that when you try to explain, the only reward anyone can give to you is a dumb, polite nod. And that, folks, are the takeaways and specific moments that resonated with me from Ta-Nehisi Coates' Between the World and Me, which again I will link to in the episode notes for you fine folks to check out.